Do you want to talk about your January favourites? You read anything in January? You didn't, did you? Hey, so today I'm filming my January wrap-up, or a little look at what I read this month. Whew. Out of breath already. Anyway, I'm looking at what I read in the first half of this month because I read quite a lot over the course of the month and I thought it would be a bit much for one video. So this is just what I read in the first part of January. And I've still got quite a few books to talk about, but yeah, so it's best split it into two halves. Now I've got books here that I mostly enjoyed, one that I really but mainly I have had quite a good reading month and quite a good first half of my reading month. So let's get into that. The first book that I read this month, and actually the first book that I read this year, was So Sad Today by Melissa Broder. Now Melissa Broder is the creator of the So Sad Today Twitter account, where she tweets about life and death and depression and anxiety and feeling lost and confused and all the things that we all feel kind of all of the time. And this book is a collection of essays basically along those lines. So Melissa talks about, she just talks about depression, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, thoughts about death. She talks about sexual fetishes, things that make you feel odd and different, open relationships, struggles in marriage and relationships, being in love when somebody maybe doesn't love you back the same way, all of the things. And it's very, very honest. That's why I enjoyed this book. I did really enjoy this book. I didn't think I was going to, because when I opened it and I started like flicking through it, when I first ordered it and bought it, I saw that there was a whole section, like a Google Hangout with myself, and that she'd included sex from a previous relationship, and I thought, I'm going to hate this, aren't I? Because I really, really don't like that sort of thing. I normally kind of hate it. But I thought it worked here. It worked with her tone and how she writes, and I really, really admired her honesty. I admired how she just laid out all the crazy things she felt, and how often I went, well, actually, I feel that way sometimes too. And in that, it was so cool because she was just, all she was doing was expressing how she felt. She wasn't providing answers or saying, you should do this to feel better. She was just saying, hey, I feel this way sometimes. And by relating to that, I felt more like, okay, it's okay to feel like that. I can get on with my life and still be a good person and still live a fulfilling life. And I think that's something really cool that this book does, is that by being so honest, it can maybe give a bit of comfort and light and hope to somebody who's been in the same position or a different position. And actually just by being so honest, it makes the book really interesting. Because I don't know anyone who's talked to me about being in an open relationship or being in a relationship with somebody who has a debilitating disease. But here she is being so honest about it, and I'm reading and going, wow, that's really interesting. I never thought of that. So I would really recommend this. It is a bit different. It is really brutally honest. You kind of have to be prepared for that. But I think a lot of people would enjoy this. Like, a lot of people would benefit for us. It's just about would benefit from it. It's just about the craziness that we all feel and that goes on in our heads and makes us feel like there's something wrong with us. But we all feel that way. So I think it's really great that there's a book that contains some of those feelings. I'd recommend. The next book that I read was actually a reread of a book that I read at school, which I never do because I kind of hated most books I read at school, sorry to say. But that's why it's covered in plastic, by the way, and has my name and grade and everything on it because it's from school. It is Terabithia by Katherine Paterson. Sorry, I forgot the author's last name. This is such a cute book. It is such a lovely book, and I read it at school and it sort of stuck with me, and I saw the movie was on TV a while ago and I thought, actually I'd really like to reread that book and see if it was just as cute and good as I remember it. And it was. I wasn't disappointed. It is a YA book about a boy called Jess who is growing up in a family where it's mostly girls. It's got his mum, I think he's got 4 sisters, and then his dad, and he feels a bit lost and misunderstood and a bit alone. And his main hobby and something he loves doing is drawing. He loves drawing these fantastical creatures, but he feels like nobody really gets it. He's made fun of at school for doing it. His dad doesn't really get it. He sees it maybe as a bit girly. So he feels like he can't be creative, feels a bit stifled, a bit lost, a bit alone. And then one day, a new girl comes to his school called Leslie. And together, well, they become friends, and together they create this magical world called Terabithia. But then one day something tragic happens. And I just love it. It's really great. It's about gender roles and gender norms and creativity and being creative while you're young and friendship and loss and family. I think it's great. It's really well written and really, really lovely. The movie's also very good. I also really like the movie. But if you can, I would read the book. And because it was a reread, I already knew I was going to love it. So good way to start the year. Next, I read a poetry collection by a South African author. It is called Night Crossing by Petra Muller. I think that's how you say her name. Don't totally hold me to that. She is an Afrikaans writer who usually writes in Afrikaans, and I think this is the only poetry collection that she's written in English. I think she's written a few others in Afrikaans and some books in Afrikaans. I'd never read anything by her. I'd also never read any poetry written by a South African. And I saw this in a secondhand bookstore and I thought it was really cheap. That's kind of why I bought it, so sorry to say. But I thought it would be interesting because I'm trying to read more books written by South Africans because I live in South Africa, I'm from South Africa, and I feel like I don't read enough by South Africans. So I picked this up, I thought I'd give it a go, and it was a bit hit and miss for me. There were some poems that I really enjoyed and that I thought were fantastic and really, really great. Particularly the poem she writes about love and her partner, I think, going through cancer and loss and those sort of topics I thought she wrote really well about. But there were also a few poems where I thought she was maybe, it felt like she was trying a bit hard to be very metaphoric and have this really deep meaning behind something that I didn't see much meaning in. That's probably a bad description, but I felt like she was trying really hard to make her poems not obvious, make them metaphoric when I thought they could have been a bit more obvious and still being beautiful. So there's a lot of poetry here that I just didn't get. I'll be honest, I like obvious poetry, but I did like it as a whole. There was stuff in here that I enjoyed. Bit hit and miss, as I said. So if you're new to poetry, I wouldn't go here. This is not where I would start because I think it might put you off a bit. But if you do read a lot of poetry and you want to read something a bit different, then maybe give this a go. There are a few poems here that I thought were really great. So it could be a good stepping stone if you want to have a look at some different poets or read poets from different parts of the world if you're not South African. I just want to say, I don't know how easily you'd find that poetry collection, Night Crossing by Petra Muller. I will have a look and see if it's on Amazon, but I don't know how easily you'd find it in other parts of the world. But maybe you can order it from Amazon, not sure, we'll check. If you can, I'll link it down below. Last year when the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction came out, I really thought all the books were very, very interesting. I really enjoyed the videos some YouTubers or booktubers made about them. I think it was Jen Campbell, Lauren from the Reads and Daydreams, and Sana from Books and Quills. Maybe a few other people, but definitely those three. And those three were the videos that I watched. And I really enjoyed them talking about all the different books that were nominated. So I made a goal this year to try and read at least most of the books that were nominated. There were 6. And I thought it would be interesting because they'd make me pick up books that I might not have picked up otherwise, such as this one. This is The Improbability of Love by Hannah Rothschild. And I would never pick this up if it hadn't have been nominated for the Bailey's Prize. Because the cover and the name, I thought this was chick lit. Not that there's anything wrong with chick lit, there isn't. If you like it, cool. It's just not really my thing. And so when I saw the cover and I saw the name, I thought, this is going to be a chick lit book. I'm not going to love it. It's not really my thing. I'm not going to buy it. But then when those booktubers made videos about it and talked what it was really about, I thought, ah, that could actually be interesting. So this was the first book I read from the list of those who were nominated for the Bailey's Prize. Hopefully I'm going to get to the others soon. And I really enjoyed this. Not at first. At first I picked it up and I started reading it and I thought, this is really frivolous and silly. Because it is very light in tone. And I normally read, I like my dark books and my heavy books. But I ended up really, really enjoying it and really loving it and having a really good time reading it. It is basically about a woman called Annie who is running out of luck a little bit in love. And she's going out with this guy who is really unsuitable, and she goes into a junk shop to buy a present for him, I think for Valentine's Day, and she finds this painting, which ends up being called The Improbability of Love. And it sort of unfurls that this painting is really valuable. And she goes on this little journey with the painting of discovering it's valuable and what happens and who wants to buy it. And it really is a commentary on the art world. What makes art valuable? Why do people get so obsessed with art? Why are people willing to pay millions for art? What makes art good or bad? And also there's a lot in here about food as art, which I loved because I really love cooking and I love food. So I thought that was really interesting. I just thought it was a really interesting book. It is a lot of fun to read. It's a good laugh. A lot of the characters, all the characters are total caricatures. So no one gets away from the writer doing that to them. Sorry, I can't find words right now. But it's a lot of fun. It made me laugh, made me giggle. Was a good little romp. Yeah, that's a good word. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, but still being really interesting. Why you ponder art and the art world and what you think of art and what you think makes art worthy, and would you pay loads for paintings, and what constitutes art in your world? Is it food? Is it drawing? Is it books? What's art to you? And that's a fun thing to think about. This book appealed to me a lot. I'd give this a go. Just be warned, if you normally read heavier stuff, it's going to maybe strike you as a bit frivolous and silly at the beginning, but I promise you'll get into it, and I promise it's worth it. The next two books that I want to talk about, I don't actually have physical copies of right now because I borrowed them from the library and they had to go back quite a while ago now. So the first book is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. And the best way I can describe what that's about is, imagine Twilight. Now, it is better than Twilight, but just think about Twilight and think about all the kids who didn't hang out with vampires and who didn't get involved in the big vampire war and who weren't Bella. And this book, The Rest of Us Just Live Here, is kind of about those kids. The kids in the hero stories who aren't the heroes and who aren't saving the world from aliens or fighting vampires or battling the Dark Lord. Just the average kids who happen in the background of the story. And this book follows a group of those kids and their friendship and the fact that they are going off to college and their life is changing and their family dynamics are changing, their relationship with each other are changing, while the indie kids, they're called, are trying to save the world. I thought that was a fun premise. I thought it's just what happens to the normal people. It was a really, really good read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a YA book, but I thought it touched on a lot of really different, diverse and important issues. It talked about OCD, mental health, depression, sexuality, falling in love, all of the things that we should be thinking about and that kids should be thinking about, or young adults should be thinking about. It was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought there were some very deep and poignant moments, particularly between two of the main characters who are best friends. And there's one part where the main character says, you choose your family and you choose how it is between you, when talking about his relationship with his friends. And I thought that was really moving and beautiful, and I just thought it was a great book. I see why everyone goes mad over Patrick Ness. I'd give it a read if you're looking for a YA book to read this month. Now my next book was something I was so excited about when I saw it in the library, but didn't end up loving as much as I thought I would, and I think that was down to my expectations. I think my expectations were a bit too high, and I made something out of this book in my head, and when it wasn't that, I got disappointed. But it's called Death by Carbs by Paige Nix. And Paige Nix is a South African writer, and basically Death by Carbs is a rip-off of Tim Noakes and the Banting Diet. And I don't know if you've heard about the Banting Diet, but it's like a low-carb, high-fat diet fad thing. And I've got some quite strong feelings about it. I've got quite strong feelings about those kind of diets in general that advise you to cut out food groups and say, if you eat this way, you'll be perfectly healthy and everything will just be wonderful. I have some issues with that. But this book made out like it was going to rip that off. And I thought, yes, great, this is going to be so funny. And it kind of fell short for me. Basically, the plot is Tim Noakes, who is a professor and the creator of this Banting Diet, has been murdered, and now it's this whole investigation on who murdered him. Was it one of his followers? Was it someone who was just hangry because they're on this diet? It was that sort of vibe, and it just didn't take it far enough for me. I wanted to really rip off this Banting Diet and really, really make fun of it, and it just didn't. It was actually quite nice about the Banting Diet, and that just bugged me. I was like, why? I actually think that the woman who wrote it might be into the whole banting thing. And that kind of bugged me because that wasn't what I wanted from the book. That isn't my feelings about the whole thing. But at the same time, as a sort of light, fluffy read, it wasn't bad. It was okay. I laughed a couple of times, but it wasn't what I was looking for. If you're going to rip off diets, really rip them off. Oh, just not what I was looking for. But what I will say, if you're not South African, do not buy that book. Don't pick it up. Don't look at it. Don't do it. Because pretty much all of the humour actually is very South African centric. It is very much, if you've grown up in South Africa and you know the culture and the euphemisms and the slang, you'll get it. If you didn't, you probably won't. So if you've spent some time in South Africa, you've been in South Africa, looking for a light and fluffy read, give it a go. If not, I think you'll just miss a lot of it, and that's just how the book is written. Which isn't great, because it would be nice if it appealed to a wider audience, but that just is how it is. Sometimes things just are. So I wouldn't recommend it if you're not South African. I think you'd miss a lot of it, because it's just very, very rooted in South African culture and mannerisms and slang. I don't want to say a lot about the last book that I read, because I really didn't like it. I didn't even finish it. And I never do that. I almost always make myself finish books. Almost always. Because I normally can't justify not finishing them. Normally I don't think they're actually that terrible, and I kind of respect the rights of having finished a book anyway, and I just feel like I should finish it. But this, I gave up. I don't even think I was halfway through. It just made me angry, I'm sorry to say, and that is Before I Forget by Brink. Another South African author. I did quite well with the South African authors. I'm doing my resolutions good. I'm doing my resolutions good. You can tell I'm really not used to talking to a camera, can't you? Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm starting off my year well, sticking to my resolutions, actually reading some South African authors. Good stuff. But this. Brink is a really celebrated author in South Africa, so I had high hopes and was sadly really let down. Basically, this book is about an aging author who is reflecting on his life through the relationships he's had. And I thought that sounded like a really interesting concept, because if we all look at our individual romantic relationships, they all tell us something about ourselves, about who we were at that time. We all learn something from those relationships, and that helps us grow as people, whether it's learning what we want, what we don't want, learning what love can be like, learning what love shouldn't be like. I thought it would be really interesting, and I thought that there could be a way of doing that. That would be really good. But instead, what I read was something that seemed to be attempting almost to be erotica, and it was going really badly. It was like this guy was just obsessing over his sexual relationships and the woman he'd had sex with, and what that meant, and why did he want to have sex with that woman? And I was kind of going, wait, what? And then the sexual relationships just didn't feel believable or real to me at all. They just felt like it was an attempt at being somewhat pornographic, but badly, really badly. So I didn't connect to it. I thought that the guy didn't really... I didn't like it. I didn't. And also, there is a problem with only looking at your life through relationships and through sexual relationships, is that you leave out huge aspects of your personality. So, and he didn't include anything beyond, maybe he does later in the book, but in the first part of the book, he's really only talking about women he's had sex with and what he thinks that says about him and his sexual nature and desire. And just, there's so much more to a person than that, and you sort of have to at least reference the things beyond that to make the book worth reading, and instead he's just talking about sex, and not in a very moving or poetic way, just in a way that's trying to be erotic and failing, and just no. This book will be going to a charity bookstore, I'm sad to say. So that is it for the first part of my January wrap up, or what I read in January. I hope that wasn't too garbled. I'm still getting used to this, so maybe I'm speaking a bit fast and haven't totally got down the whole comfort level thing with the camera yet, but I'm working on it and I'm having fun making these videos and talking about books, and that's always great. So I will talk to you guys soon. I will be back, probably with the second half of my January wrap up, maybe with another video in the interim. In any case, I really hope you guys are having a good day. I'll chat to you soon. Bye!